Joining us now out of Beirut is Craig Murray, a former British senior diplomat. Hello, Mr. Murray. Pleasure to have you on Press TV. Hope you're safe and doing well. What does this ICC ruling? This time last year, we saw the ICJ push for that. That the regime has to stop doing anything that constitutes genocide. It didn't listen. Nothing came out of it. Nothing with teeth or any momentum came out of that ruling. Are we going to see any teeth on the back end of this ruling from the ICC?
I think all these things help, but you can't expect instant results. I think it will take some time for the legal processes to work through. It does make it much harder for countries to continue sending weapons to Israel, for example, and I think you might...
Yes, go ahead.
I think you might see interruptions in the weapons supply chain for things like the F-35 jets, for example, but nothing in this is going to stop the genocide immediately. The genocide is going to continue, and I fear Israeli plans to annex Gaza are going to continue. It's also hard to see how the ICC can bring warrants against Netanyahu and not then bring warrants against all the people who supplied and enabled him, because if Netanyahu is committing war crimes in Gaza, which plainly he is, then he is able to do so because the United States gave him the weapons to commit those war crimes. And the United Kingdom and other countries. So the ramifications of this go deep, and there are politicians in many Western countries who will start to worry about their personal responsibility, and in the longer term that could lead to policy changes. But I fear that at the moment, no, nothing much will happen.
I mean, it seems like maybe in the short term, it's going to disrupt the travel plans for Yoav Gallant and Benjamin Netanyahu, possibly get some politicians, to your point, start thinking about sending arms to the regime. Can you see any other good immediately as far as relief for Palestinians coming out of this, and why or why not?
It's very hard to see any good relief for Palestinians coming through right now. I can't see anything in this which is going to immediately in the next few weeks change the game. Israel plainly at the moment is stepping up its genocide. It's actually stepping up its rate of killing, it's stepping up the rate of destruction, and it's looking to annex Gaza piece by piece. And the only thing trying to stop it is the resistance led by those forces which are willing to offer armed resistance to the occupation and to the genocide. Nothing else is helping. There's nothing helping the Palestinians in the field of international diplomacy, and we have seen a huge challenge to international diplomacy and international law, and we've seen the limits of the neoliberal system because the Western political class are simply willing to allow Israel to continue its slaughter, and sadly, this is not going immediately to stop them.
And Mr. Murray, can this ruling, perhaps in the long term, maybe if it doesn't provide any kind of relief for Palestinians in the short term, but this ruling and rulings such as this ruling, a collective of these rulings, how can they impact or possibly, do you think collectively they could culminate one day and some people from the Israeli leadership have to pay for war crimes committed when the list is this long and this well documented in Gaza?
Yes, I think in the long term, yes. I mean, in the long term, I believe Israel is finished. I think it has lost the moral support of the large majority of countries in the world, and it has lost the moral support of the people, even in those countries in the world in which the political class still support Israel. And I think rather like apartheid South Africa did, it will simply come to an end. It will become so subject to sanctions and boycott, and life will become so difficult for the Israelis that eventually the pressure will tell, and Israel will will be finished. And part of that process is that they will be found guilty of genocide at the International Court of Justice in a year or two, when that process works through. And if Netanyahu is ever caught by the criminal court, he would be found guilty. But there will be other warrants for other Israelis, and some of them will be caught. This is all part of the process of making Israel an internationally unacceptable state. And it will lead eventually to changes to real changes, particularly economic changes, which will cause the collapse of the state of Israel. But I'm very sorry to say it's just not going to happen in time to save those Palestinian women, children and men who are being murdered as we speak.
Thank you and stay safe, Mr. Craig Murray. Pleasure to have you on. Former British senior diplomat joining us out of Beirut.